Hi there. Welcome back to me, Sophie Showen, the author of the book There's Always a Hitch, reading a few chapters. I'm reading today chapter 3, My Snobbiness is Ebbing Away. Please excuse the background. I'm actually in a bedsit at the moment in the south of England. And so I work, play, sleep and eat in the same area. So, and trying to get the lighting the same as well. Good. It's a bit tricky. And this is actually take 2 because the first take I realised that my quarantine hair is like a cavewoman. It's just awful, so I have to keep putting up all the time. But hey ho, that's life for you. Anyway, let's begin. 17th September 2019. We all know that Airbnb owners wouldn't know the truth if it hit them in the arse, and that the description is a crock of shit. I'm learning that more and more. I'm also learning my once high standards have dramatically dropped. My snobbiness is ebbing away. I happen to have spent a lot of time and money on Airbnbs, and the more I do, the worse it seems to get. I think homeowners just want to rip people off for us to pay their rent or mortgage. So, can you feel my excitement building for my living arrangements? I arrive at this apartment and I've read this description very, very carefully. I cannot imagine what can go wrong. Oh boy, here we go again. Does no one in LA own a duster or know how to clean properly? Clearly not. But honestly, I was so glad to get out of the last place and see a working gas cooker, plates and a normal kitchen that I was overlooking the dust. I'm introduced to their dog, who's super cute and energetic. He is mentioned in the ad, and I was told that he would not be a problem. So all good. I start unpacking. I look around my bedroom and realise that I am on a mezzanine level. I notice that the wall stops halfway up to the ceiling. So I have physical privacy, but no noise privacy. I get to hear everything in the kitchen. When the front door opens, and oh, the quiet dog. Not so quiet. He barks the whole time the owner's not there. Really? Don't get me wrong, I love dogs. We used to have dogs when we were growing up, but when they make too much noise, it's just constantly. And of course, the owners don't get to hear it because they're out. There's not a lot really you can do, so you're kind of stuck with it. I have a call that evening with my mentor, and she talks me back down from another cliff edge of sheer panic. I'm honestly ready to give up and leave LA. I am also having a major panic attack about money. The fear of money is horrific. So if you've ever experienced it, boy, I'm with you. My mentor told me to go out there and do things. Start having fun. Fun? What the hell is that? I had not had it in a while, so yes, I thought. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where my story really begins. 18th September 2019. The next day, I pulled my big girl pants on and decided to do some writing for the book, but also to do what I love and people watch. Hollywood is certainly the place for that. You get all sorts of people from around the globe in all walks of life. So I trotted off to Hollywood. I settled down in Starbucks and got down to some serious writing. Jazz was playing in the background, along with the hum of chatter. Others were quietly sitting and looking at their phones or reading, and of course their massive laptops. Now and again a homeless person came in and sat down, but no one seemed to bat an eyelid. They did not stay for long. After a while I was distracted by a woman who sat down opposite me and announced to the 2 gentlemen who were sitting next to me that she had just seen a dead body. And of course, sorry, I'm not laughing about the fact that she had just seen a dead body. I was just laughing about the fact that it was just the way she did it. She just sat down and announced it, clearly wanting to talk to them or talk about something. And it just piqued my interest. But I'm not laughing about the fact, clearly, obviously, not laughing about the fact that there's a dead body. Please don't get me wrong with that. Well, of course, I couldn't concentrate on what I was doing, so I listened under the guise I was thinking. The conversation then ensued about how many dead bodies each of these people had seen. It is apparently a thing, which I didn't know about. Awful, but intriguing. It got me pondering about the dead bodies I have seen. Not exactly what I expected to be thinking about. but hey ho. The gentleman eventually left, and the woman swooped next to me, where I was sitting, and started a conversation with me. I was just about to tell her about my experiences about dead bodies, but instead took a she excuse me, sorry, but she instead took a darker twist and told me about a rape she experienced back in the 1970s, and that she was not traumatized by it, contrary to what people said. It completely threw me, and I really did not want to continue the conversation, but she just kept going. While she was talking, she was eating a sandwich, and luckily for me, she did not take too long to finish it before leaving. It then got me thinking about how open she was about this traumatic experience. On the one hand, I thought it was great that it was out in the open and not some dirty little secret, but on the other hand, I was comfortable. I did a little work after that, but not much, so I stopped writing and left. I was exhausted, so I went back to my digs, watched TV and fell asleep. 19th of September 2019. After a good night's sleep, I was super excited as I was having my hair done, and it was costing next to nothing. It was this deal that I found on the internet, which is great. I also decided to ask a Facebook group if anyone knew of a walk-in acting class I could attend. I'm in LA, right? People were very good and responded, so I put that to the side and to deal with it later. I went to the hair appointment, but unfortunately it did not work out and I was bummed. So I thought I'd run an errand instead. On my way, I came across a shocking banner, which was part of a free museum called Psychiatry, an Industry of Death. It was very, very interesting museum. It was talking about psychiatry throughout history, starting with Bedlam back in the 1800s, and to modern day psychiatry, which they were saying that it's lawful killing, because they're over medicating people, and making people dependent, and it's kind of like torture, and they went through the whole torture. Anyway, it was a very interesting museum, and I would highly recommend it because it certainly gives you a different point of view. I have studied psychotherapy and psychology, so I'm very interested in psychiatry, and all of those forms. And they talked about some of the people that I really look up to and studied, like Carl Jung, but actually he's part of this whole movement. But I would certainly recommend it. It's, as I say, you can never not have enough information about the world and different points of view. It just keeps you open-minded, which I am very glad I am. 2.5 hours later, I emerged blinking into the sunshine. It was so fascinating, sad and shocking. But I felt good that I had educated myself a little more about the way the world works. I continued to run my errands, but to no avail, as I could not find what I was looking for. I decided I was pretty famished, so I went to the famous hot dog stand. The line was long, and the sun was strong, but I was determined to stay and try them. The most famous hot dog is a chili cheese dog, which literally is plastic cheese on a bun with what looks like shop-bought hot dog, onions and mincemeat. It looked so unappetizing that I just could not bring myself to eat it. So I opted for a Chicago Polish something. Was it worth it? Hell no. Along with all the other touristy stuff that is overpriced. But at least I can take that off my bucket list. It was never on there, to be honest. But I know not to waste ink putting it on there. I left stuffed but underwhelmed. As I say in the disclaimer in the book, I don't advocate any of the places that I visited, unless I specifically say so. I don't say to try or not to try it. This is only my experience of things. I'm not a huge hot dog fan, so that probably will make a huge difference. So please don't not go and visit it because of what I say. But go and visit it and make up your own mind. That's always about anything people review or opinionate about. It's always good to try it yourself, and then you can formulate the best opinion, which is yours. I was planning to have a quiet night in, however, I wanted to pop to the supermarket to get some supplies, and I think it was probably a bottle of wine. On my way home, I came across this tiny theatre which was advertising an improv comedy show on Saturday night. Quite fancied going, so I went in to buy a ticket. There were people walking into a theatre room, so I asked them what was going on, and would you believe it? It was an open acting class. The universe has seen my Facebook post. The teacher came out and asked if I was staying. I said that I was there to buy a ticket for the show on Saturday. She told me to go and buy the ticket and then come back to the class. So I did. I bought a ticket and then I did my first acting class in LA. I loved it. When we were going through acting, the emotions, it was great as I could walk around shouting, "Fuck!" at the top of my voice out of anger. The best therapy ever. It was also a very long evening, but so worth it. I met some great people, showed off my acting skills, and got a thumbs up from the teacher. I left after signing up for more classes and a huge smile on my face. This inspired me to see what else I could do whilst in LA. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And I don't mention it here, but I do go back and I do a second. I do actually mention it in the book. I go back for a second class, but unfortunately, then after that, I travel, so I'm not able to do more. But I would definitely go back and do these acting classes. I mean, it's great just to increase your confidence of speaking, of being on social media like this, or just, yeah, it's just great. And I had a great time. I really enjoyed it. 20th September 2019. Research on my book took me to Universal Studios. Again, it was very overpriced, and I walked away very underwhelmed. What was frustrating was that I wanted to see if I could stand on the same ground Mum and the girls did. Unfortunately, everyone I spoke to, apart from one lady at the ticket office, was as unenthusiastic as a scarecrow on Mars. But by my story and not wanting to help me. I tried calling the PR woman and left a voicemail, but of course no return phone call. I did find that very frustrating while I was travelling, was that I was trying to research the book and see if I could actually find the original lots that Mum and the girls were on when they went to Universal, or even stand on the same ground they did. But unfortunately, nobody knew the actual history, certainly back to the late 50s. So, as I say, somebody suggested and gave me the number to call a PR woman, and I left a voicemail but never got anything back. At that point, I actually felt a little bit about who I was as a person, as an author, researching my book, that I wasn't really being taken seriously. And so, yeah, it was it was an interesting experience. But anyway, as soon as I got there, I jumped on the same studio tour as Mum had done. But it just felt like I was on a conveyor belt. Most of the lots were closed, so you didn't really get to see much. The 3D experience was average, and Jaws jumping out of the water was like an underwhelming, flaccid erection. I think that the park is more focused on rides rather than showing the actual making of movies or TV shows, in which I'm more interested. It was a shame. What I found fascinating was that Mum caught the bus from the hotel and simply went in. Now you must go by subway to the stop, walk a little, and then get a trolley bus to the entrance. After that, there is a huge wait to get in. Oh, life seems so much simpler back then. I went on a couple of rides which satisfied my inner child. I went on the Minion ride, which I really enjoyed it. And the Jurassic Park ride, yes. But long queues, lots and lots of waiting around. But the sort of queuing put me off the others. There were other rides, and after queuing twice, such a long time, I just thought it wasn't worth it. I did, however, buy the biggest donut from the Simpsons land. of which I ate half for dinner and the other half the next day for breakfast. It was pretty delicious, but I love cake anyway. And this was donut was just, I mean, it was huge. It was, it was about 3 or 4 donuts in one. And it was a ring donut and then the pink icing with sprinkles. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. It was probably the highlight of my day. After Universal, I was feeling disappointed and let down that I wasn't being taken seriously, so I decided to go to a local bar and have a glass of wine. I was hoping for that all-American bar hospitality when you sit at the bar and you can tell the bartender all your problems over your drink. Then you walk away with either a sense that you must look into your drinking habits or their phone number. Sadly, this did not happen, so I left after one glass. I was pretty disappointed from all the TV shows and the movies. When you go and sit at the bar, the bartender's supposed to come over and chat to you, find out more about you. But this guy, he asked what I wanted, gave me my drink, and walked off. I wanted more engagement, more interaction. And he was up the other end talking to regulars or other people. So it was a bit disappointing, that was. Never believe what you see in the movies. 13th of October 1958. This is Mum now. We inquired at the travel desk about tours and booked one at 1:45 p.m. for Hollywood and the studios. Then we went window shopping. A coach picked us up at the hotel and took us to the depot. There weren't many seats left, so we were fairly near the back. I sat next to Janet and Jerry sat behind. The driver was very nice and kept us amused all the time. He started off by telling all the women which side left and right were. Even then I got muddled. Mum. We went through Hollywood and around some of the stars' homes. Amongst them, we saw Tennessee Ernie Ford's house. He was standing in his porch, quite a thrill when he waved at the bus. We stopped at a soda fountain for 10 minutes in Hollywood. Janet and I wandered around. It was quite thrilling being in Hollywood, as you never know who you might see. Next, we carried on to Universal Studios. When we entered the gates, a policeman gave us a brochure. It was really interesting, although we weren't allowed out of the bus. We saw all the full sets, the dressing rooms, even whole towns made houses. It was really fascinating. We saw a glimpse of a film being made, but didn't stop. I actually went to have a look at doing the same bus tour of the people's homes that the girls did, and of course it's very different now with privacy. I don't advocate to do anything or not to do anything, but I went and I asked whether there was anybody who could point out Tennessee's house, so I could sort of say, Mum saw this house, but of course privacy. They're not allowed to tell you whose house is who. So then I kind of thought, what's the point of a celebrity houses tour if you don't know whose house is whose, whether it's even a celebrity that lives there? And you probably only get to see mostly gates and plants, bushes anyway. However, saying that, I will be fascinated when I do go back to do the tour to see what you do actually get to see, and maybe some funny anecdotes or something. Maybe, I don't know. I just don't know what you get to see if they won't tell you whose house is whose. Honestly, I get it. Imagine if I was a stalker and I wanted to know somebody's house. Anyway, 21st of September 2019. The alarm was set for my next round of fun on Saturday, which involved a cardio tap dancing class. I was quite excited about it, as when I was younger I loved tap dancing. But as you know, you should leave certain things back in your childhood. It turned out it was National Dance Day and the instructor decided we should do a hip-hop routine in the form of tap. Well now, my tap career started that day and abruptly ended that day. I was a hottest mess in amongst these wannabe Broadway stars. Instead of the lovely pitter-patter of tap, it sounded like a stampede. But hey, it was fun. Got me out of bed and got my heart rate up enough to allow me to completely negate any burnt off calories by eating something sugary and delicious. I then spent over an hour walking in the searing heat to a store, only to find out what I needed was sold out. It was almost comical. I'm sure I got a heat stroke. I was so hot. And walking all the way, it was over an hour to get to this place. To find out, I checked down the website. They said they had it. That's the problem. That's what, yeah, it was even more frustrating. I actually jumped in an Uber home as I was completely exhausted. That evening, I went to the theatre to see the show that I had bought tickets for. It was a comedy improv show, and it was so, so good. Directed by the wonderful Tim Simek and performed by Slow, children at play. I think the actors were incredibly talented, being able to think quickly on their feet and be funny at the same time. Some of the jokes were a little lost on me, but it was great, as it was geared towards Americans. That did not dent my enthusiasm and enjoyment. This is one thing I would highly recommend to go and see them. I was in NoHo. NoHo, North Hollywood, is synonymous for the little theatres. I didn't realise, but when you start seeing them, you see them everywhere. And they are absolutely fantastic, and they showcase real raw talent. And I was so pleased to meet Tim, the director, but also he was part of it. He does incredible work for this theatre, for Slow Children at Play, but also he does audiobooks for deaf. No. How could he do audiobooks for deaf people? He does something amazing. Sorry, Tim. I know this is really rude, but anyway, going back to it. Yeah, if you see them, any tickets available, go and see them. They are absolutely fantastic. So incredibly talented. I mean, to be funny is a skill in itself. Doing improv is a skill in itself, and then merge the two together. It is amazing. I mean, to be funny, to come up with something is interesting, but coming up on the spot for a certain subject is incredibly difficult, as I say. I just really enjoyed it. It was a couple of hours of pure laughter, intrigue, and greatness. So yes, as you probably can imagine, I highly recommend it. The theatre itself was tiny, only a few rows and about 30 seats, completely different from my usual theatre experience. I would love to go back when I'm next in NoHo, and of course I will. 22nd of September 2019. Sunday is another eventful day. I decided to sign up to an evening of women empowerment. It was full of performers, speakers, dancers, and people selling stuff. I thoroughly enjoyed meeting some people, especially a very talented artist whose work I liked very much. I was tempted to buy a piece, but sadly funds would not stretch, and at this stage I don't have any walls on which to display it. He did keep saying he would be able to ship it if I bought something, and I was kind of going, well, I'm not sure you would ship anything to, because I don't have anywhere. He didn't quite understand this concept. That I was actually a nomad with suitcases, and that's about it, and no fixed abode at that time. But it was amazing art. The highlight of the evening was going home. Sadly, even the overpriced bar wine was not enough for my enjoyometer to be piqued. Don't get me wrong, some of the speakers were very inspiring, but the organisation was poor and most of the audience was clearly made up of friends and family. There was nothing new, which is what interests me. And clearly the coaching world has managed to just spew out same old speak. The next couple of days came and went, didn't do too much. And that's the end of that chapter. I continue in LA before I move on. So that was just chapter 3. So can you imagine the excitement for the rest of the chapters? I hope you're enjoying these, reading with me. I don't know, maybe I should do some more books, read some more books aloud. Maybe I'm good at reading, I don't know. But anyway, I'm enjoying it. I'm reliving and revisiting when I read about it and look at the images. But hope you're all well. Hope you're all doing well, thriving in these times at the moment. My name is Sophie Sherwin, and this has been about There's Always a Hitch. Bye bye for now.